Hey Emma, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing great. Um, I love Taylor Sheridan things. I think he's like a very interesting kind of writer. But what I like about Iris is she has had so many kind of lives throughout the three seasons that we've seen. For you, when you're growing a character like that throughout all of this time and kind of dealing with everything else that's going on in Kingstown, what is your favorite part of getting to kind of see where she goes every season?
Particularly with this season, I felt like I learned I developed her a lot more because we would get each script a couple of weeks before we were shooting the episode, and I'd like
Mhm.
flick through it and I'd be like, oh, you know, Iris isn't her real name. Okay, I've got to think about, why that is, what happened. I've got to like create that other version of her life. And
Mhm.
that happened a lot this season, and that was really creatively fulfilling. I started to feel like with this character, I felt a bit stumped. Like I didn't know. Season two, I left being like, what have I done? Like I felt so lost in this show. And I
Mhm.
felt like this season, I really had the opportunity to bring her back and have fun doing it. And it was a continually evolving character this season, which made it really fulfilling.
Yeah, to talk a bit about the creative process, is there anything that helps you kind of understand her and get into that mindset when you come back from a break or whatever it is? Is it like, are you big into reading books or poetry or listening to music or something?
Yeah, you know what? I got real just on like a side note. I don't even know if that was not intentionally part of my process, but I've always loved poetry, but particularly this season, I found myself reading a lot of poetry.
Mhm.
And Yorick, my co-star, would buy me poetry books, and he would buy books that I recommended. And it was this, I said this earlier on today. I think what really helped me was allowing myself to feel happy in my personal life. I think that was actually a part of my prep because season
Mm.
one, I was like in it. Like I was in Toronto. It was my first gig, and I was so in the world of Iris that it was really actually quite difficult and dark. And I lived in a really dark space. And it sounds ridiculous for an actor to say that, but when you are thinking about someone that has been trafficked and drugged and raped and sold
Mm.
and like all of this horrific stuff, it does fuck with your psyche a bit, excuse my language. um and this season, what I found really helped me was switching off and taking time for myself and having boundaries with not, season two, I was shooting another show at the same time. I
Mm.
was auditioning like crazy. My mind was not in Kingstown. My mind was not in the show at all, which is why my performance is not that great in season two. But season three, I was like, okay, let's like slow down and let's hike and journal in the morning. And I had a house with a really cold pool that had just thawed out from the winter in Pittsburgh, and I would do cold plunges every morning. And I was in a really healthy place for the first time. And I think that allowed me to like go to set and show up with ideas and want to be there. And I think that was actually just part of my prep. But I actually had to. I didn't watch season two until we came to shoot season three. I was like, okay, I feel like I should probably watch the show. And so I watched season two. So that was part of my prep. Just like
You're
kind
like,
of flicking through my old scripts and stuff like that.
oh my God, I love it. And also, you were good in season two. But you mentioned Pittsburgh. I'm from Pittsburgh. So I do want to talk
No
about,
way.
yeah, so I do want to talk about getting to film there because I think, you know, the Steel City is an interesting place, but also this is set in a fictional place in Michigan, and Michigan kind of has that same vibe of like, was once this great state or city or whatever it is, and it kind of has this down run look to it now. And as much as I love Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh does
I
have
love it.
those areas. What was it like getting to be there and see kind of that vibe and how it would apply to a town like Kingstown?
I didn't like my experience with Pittsburgh was really separate to what the show's idea of Kingstown is, like
Mm.
it reminded me a lot of home because I'm from this place called Sheffield in England, which is a steel city.
Mm.
Um, and I would go to, like North Park. I stayed near North Park, and I would hike there every day, and I found waterfalls, and like I had such a great experience in Pittsburgh that I can't even compare it to what the show is, I can't compare it to Kingstown as a town at all. I think Pittsburgh's beautiful. I love it. Sorry, that doesn't answer your question at all.
It is fine. Every time I ask about Pittsburgh, people are like, it's so beautiful. And then you find the one person who's like from there on the cast, and they're like, no,
They're like, no,
this
it
is
sucks.
it's gray.
Everyone shits on Pittsburgh, man. It's great. I was thinking, I was looking at property though, and we were shooting season 3. I was like, I
You
want to
wanted to
move.
live with those accents for the rest of your life.
The accents are not that strong. There's only been a couple of people I ran into where I'm like, oh wow, that's not what I thought you sounded like.
Yeah, they get the yins or no yins going up there, and you're like, what? Are you going where?
I love
Um,
it.
but I do love, obviously she was brought in season one to kind of not be an obstacle, but she wasn't there to kind of be someone that Mike could rely on. And as that relationship has grown, how has it been kind of working on that to see where those two kind of see each other throughout the seasons?
It's been a really like beautiful thing to watch from like my side as well, because I got told what Taylor Sheridan wanted to do with these two characters, which is
Mhm.
massively changed now. You know, who knows? Maybe it still will, but the idea was that we were going to end up together, and it's
Mhm.
something that me and Jeremy have spoken a lot about, and we spoke a lot about in season 1 with Taylor, and it just seemed to not go down that road. But watching it, like I've always been out of the like we've never had some grand plan. We've never really known. I don't think the show's ever really quite known what path what we should do with Iris. It's like after season 1 it's like, okay, well what does she do now? Like what is she doing in this town still, so it's been nice to kind of watch these episodes back and see how their relationships kind of flourished in a really beautiful way, as flawed as it is. I think mine and like Iris and Mike's chemistry is really undeniable, and it's a really weird relationship to kind of figure out. I think it's really interesting to watch. So
Mhm.
yeah, I loved it. I've been craving something more with those two. So when I read the scene at the start of this season, she like, she's in his house, she's in his family house, and she like tries it on with him, and he kind of rejects her, but doesn't say it in those words, and it's all like no one's actually speaking the truth. Like she's never told him how she feels, and he'll never like, who knows how he feels. But I loved reading that. I was like, oh my god, she's like trying, she's trying to do something. Like I don't know. It's been a really interesting thing, and I think that just has grown with me and Jeremy getting to know each other more over the years
Mhm.
as well. Coming back to it. I think that adds like the fuel to what the chemistry is on the screen. I hope.
Yeah, it totally does. And for the last question, I talking about, how there was an idea of what they wanted those two to be, and then how it's kind of progressed into not being that. How much is there like a creative process? Because I know a lot of the times when Taylor Sheridan gives people scripts, it's like, yep, that's your script. Don't change a word. Like you're saying what he tells you to say. And from what I've heard, most everyone is like, it's because it's good, not because he's not going to like yell at you. But having the power to be like, hey, like I don't see them going that way. How has that kind of felt creatively to get to kind of navigate where those two end up?
Um, it's I mean the writers this because Taylor doesn't write on the show anymore, but
Mhm.
he's only a phone call away kind of thing. But the writers this season were really great. Whenever I was confused and I didn't want to say a line that didn't make sense to me, like I used to just say lines because I thought that was my job to say lines, and now I'm kind of getting to this point where I'm like, I won't say a line unless it makes sense. And there was a bit of that in the show, but the writers would be there on set, and I could be like, you explain if you want me to say it, can you please explain it to me? So it's been really collaborative, but me and Jeremy never really speak that much about it. It's like this weird taboo that none of us want to talk about. And it's just been like, it's like none of us are looking at this Mike and Iris thing. So it's not really been a thing with Jeremy that much. There was a scene in season 1 that I do recall Jeremy speaking to me about really early on, because we got all 10 episodes at the start of the season, and we were supposed to be in a bath together. And it was like a purely platonic, like nice scene. It wasn't a sexual scene, but I remember Jeremy saying to me really early on one weekend, he was like, it just doesn't make sense to me. She's just been through all of this stuff. Why would he get in a bath with her? She would not want to be naked with another man anytime soon. And I really agreed with him on that. I think I think I'm actually happy with where they're at, because as frustrating as it is, like I don't know why part of me wants that to happen, like Mike and Iris. I think one, it's more interesting that it doesn't happen. And yeah, there's just a part of me as an actor that wants a happy ending, but that's not it's not what this show provides. And maybe it's a good thing. I don't know. I don't know if that answers your question at all.
And you're like, maybe their happy ending will exist in the fan fiction that you.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my God. I would die if there was fan fiction of that. It would be so weird.
Oh my God.
Have you ever read fan fiction before? It's so weird.
Just then you're like, that's about me. No, I'm good.
I'm like, leave that website.
Like, that's my hair they're talking about. But thank you so much for talking to me today. I really appreciate it. And I can't wait for everyone to continue to see Mayor of Kingstown and see where Iris goes.
Thank you so much, Rachel. It was nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Have a great day.
And you. Bye.